Right. So what is it about Russia that gets the West, and predominantly the EU, so excited? Like, ever since the Ukraine-Russia conflict started, I don't think I've heard once the EU talk about peace. Properly. If at all, actually. And we know Russia asked for peace talks many times in the first year or two. And the likes of Boris Johnson and everybody ganged up against it and refused it. All I ever see is aggressive talks from the EU and the West, and aggressive moves. And yet they always blame Russia. And the amount of people who don't understand what led up to this war is quite concerning. And the amount of people who think Ukraine are some bastion of virtue when they're linked to human trafficking, selling of body parts, one of the most corrupt countries in the whole world, or at least the most corrupt country in the West. It literally has the Azov battalion that the Senate regarded as a Nazi regime, where America led a coup and where the Ukraine forces have been attacking the eastern provinces for about a decade, killing thousands and thousands of people, and who Zelensky says himself has lost billions, I think he said billions, not millions, of monetary funding and weapons that have been given to this war. And nobody talks about the biolabs, blah, 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 blah. So it's obvious the West hate Russia. Whether it's about the territory, the land, the resources, who knows? But it is obvious, in my opinion, that Russia is, and some will laugh at this, but ganged up upon by the West all the time. And they can't do right from wrong. And since Putin came on board, you know, the lifespan of the people there has increased rapidly, the economy's improved, all these kind of good things, but you never hear of any of that. And you never hear any balanced discussions on Putin. And whenever I hear him talk, he's very logical, rational, very intelligent, very informed. He's very traditional, religious kind of conservative background. But when you hear him talk, you're hard pushed to disagree. And then we have the likes of China, who seem to have a carte blanche and can do no wrong. And they can have spies, literally, in our government, in Parliament. We can have them in our intelligence services. We can have them buying up all our education system, important infrastructure like water reserves, looking at the telecoms, IT infrastructure. They've put kill switches in turbines, solar panels. They are manipulating the legal system and Parliament potentially to give away extremely important territory that only benefits them. Like, their fingers are everywhere. They haven't been held to account for COVID, which they sat on for a long time, and then they lied, saying it didn't transmit between humans. Then they stopped internal travel and told the WHO all sorts of nonsense, while they then allowed millions to travel across the world in early 2020 for Chinese New Year. They sold a load of rubbish PPE that wasn't to fit my guinea pig, let alone be purposely adequate for such needs, for hospitalisation, you know, etc., surgical wear. They bought up loads of British industry during COVID, like some travel agencies. Thomas Cook, did they buy? I don't know, I can't remember. They are the ones benefiting from net zero. And they seem to have our government wrapped around their tiny finger. Our government, who literally sends some MP their way most weeks. and even Prince Harry last week was in China. They even have real, like, slave prisons with the Uyghur Muslims. That seems fine. Nobody seems to hold them to account for that. They seem to be able to do whatever they like and nothing happens. Then you have even the likes of NATO, who have sent military into an enormous amount of countries, enforced their way, often bullied, pushed, cajoled. They've bombed many places, gone into many wars with no real factual reasons, with evidence. But that's all okay. But Russia, who's been pushed and pushed and pushed, who then goes into generally only the areas where they've been under attack for a decade by Ukrainian forces. They're the bad guys. Now, I know Putin is not perfect. I'm not stupid. But they do seem to be held to a different account compared to the rest. Don't you think? And why is that? And for me, I'd rather save all our money than... Well, I do think we need to bolster our military, but I don't think we need to spend loads of money with Ukraine. I'd stop that funding today. I'd bolster our military resources in terms of our personnel, updating equipment, putting a lot more into software, spyware and technology. I'd stop the boats if you're serious about keeping British people safe. And I would kick China out of literally everything to do with this country. And I think that, again, would go a long way to keeping the UK safe. And again, many would disagree with me, but I would befriend Russia. Because, in again, my opinion, on a grand scale of things, I would rather have them as my friend when I fear China and the likes of Iran way more. I think someone who's humble, someone who sees a bigger picture, would look at befriending Russia to help with any wider, way more aggressive conflicts that could potentially occur. You know, what they say, keep your friends close, your enemies even closer, or whatever it is. Anyway, why is China Teflon and Russia is always the bad guy?